No, I was just. Hey y'all, good evening. Sorry, too loud. It's 5:56. We got a bunch of speakers, so let's sit down at 6 o'clock. All right, get going. Thank you. Hey y'all, 2 more minutes. We got a big list of speakers tonight. It's our third meeting, so please say your final goodbyes. I mean, you'll get out of here eventually. I don't mean that as dark as it sounds. And then let's get going. Bye.
Okay, we're going to call the meeting to order. Today's November 29th. It's the third Streets, Bridges, and Sidewalks meeting. First on the agenda, we have some opening comments from, oh, wait. Yes. Nope, never mind. We're going to go straight to citizens to be heard. We're going to do, like last meetings, 2 minutes per speaker, 3 minutes for groups. And we also have chairs right over there next to the podium where John's pointing. We're going to call the speaker and then we're going to do runners up so we don't waste time and we have time for discussion. But John has a couple of words before we start.
Yeah, y'all. I just wanted to give y'all a sense of where we are in the process so people all kind of know what to expect and where we've been. First meeting was really just new information from the city, information of that process, a little bit of group discussion. Meeting last time, our second meeting was we heard from regional partners, citizens to be heard, and then additional group discussion. Tonight, as you see on the agenda, very similar. We won't be hearing from regional partners, but we will have time to discuss the bus tour that'll happen on Saturday. In addition to larger group discussion. Final meeting, the fourth meeting, that'll be when we will accept motions. And for those motions, we will do that more formally than the discussion's been. There will be sort of a Robert's Rules for Order process for that. We will not be doing that tonight, just so we're all clear. So you can happy to talk about prospective motions, suggestions you want to make for the fourth meeting, but we will not be accepting official motions this evening. And I also just wanted to state that if some people on this committee are really involved with Robert's Rules of Order and how to do an amendment in the process. Some are less so. Please don't be intimidated by that process. If there's something you want to get out there and want to say, please reach out and we'll help you kind of get it into a form that can be sort of an official meeting motion for the fourth meeting. And with that, let's get going.
And just a reminder, if you are watching through the live stream or can't make a meeting in person, SA Speak Up is live and you can leave comments. Comments left for this committee will be issued to committee members in the next memo. So the first citizens we heard is Chris Sandlix. Yes, please. And then up next, Robert Dickerson, please.
And so, Mr. Dickerson, are you here as well? Right. Oh, great. Thank you.
And then a reminder, we'll give you a 30-second warning. We'll probably raise our hands or a paper or something just so that you get a little warning of time coming up.
Just start. Hello. Can you hear me? Okay, perfect. I appreciate having the opportunity to come down and spend apparently 2 minutes with you. My name is Chris Sandals. I'm the Medical Center Director and Chief Executive for the South Texas Veterans Healthcare System. I'm obviously a member of the Department of Veterans Affairs and the Veterans Health Administration, the largest integrated healthcare system in the country. I'm here because there's a project being considered for road construction in the medical center, specifically Floyd Curl from Charles Katz. I really felt like the VA healthcare system was uniquely positioned to just come down and just share a few observations with you. Uniquely positioned, one, because we are a member of the San Antonio Medical Foundation. We're a member of the Medical Alliance, but also the only VA healthcare system here in Bexar County and obviously San Antonio proper. But also, if you look at the medical center, we're the only healthcare system that has both its current and future plans for all expansion to occur within the medical center versus having other tertiary campuses across the community like many of our other partners. So really, it felt like I had a vested interest in any road construction projects that we're considering in the medical center to a pretty significant extent. So for us, this means that, again, the conditions in the medical center are critical to our current and future aspirations to care not just for veterans and some active duty members, but also their beneficiaries when appropriate. Now, I'm fairly confident this committee has seen, or it sounds like I heard something about a bus tour, so you will have the opportunity to take a look at these roads before making decisions, and definitely encourage you to do so. I've personally driven the roads. I know our staff have. I know our veterans have. But most importantly, I know both our contract and on-contract critical medical emergency and non-medical transport vehicles have traveled this road. And it can be unsafe given some of the surface inconsistencies. So would encourage you to help us support our growth. If you did not know, you have now officially the fastest growing VA healthcare system in the country right here in San Antonio. And so we'd like to know that our community is going to support that growth. And part of that is by doing things like fixing the roads, please. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Just a message from Translation Services.
Good evening. Buenas noches. Para las personas que necesiten interpretación al español, nosotras las intérpretes estamos ubicadas allá con mi compañera. Gracias.
Okay, up next, Robert Dickerson. Up next, Marco Carmona.
With that. Good evening. My name is Robert Dickerson. I am a proud 11-year resident of the Brooks campus. It has been a phenomenal experience witnessing a Little City rise from the former Brooks Air Force Base. Sidney Brooks is our main road. Sidney Brooks has been steadily degraded as a result of increased traffic from the following: 3,000 plus employees, via bus connecting terminal, Compass Roads Middle School, oil refinery headquarters, Kennedy Apartments, the Green Line Park, Aviator Apartments, Heritage Oaks Housing, heavy construction vehicles, CareNet Healthcare Operations, Senator Gutierrez's office, Brooks Development Office, Councilwoman Villagran's office, and Compass Rose High School. As I close, when driving down Sidney Brooks, it feels like navigating a military obstacle course, always looking forward to the finish line. On behalf of disabled residents with scooters, it is very difficult to navigate the sidewalks along Sidney Brooks. The sidewalks are uneven or non-existent. Imagine, if you will, the addition of several thousand students and residents to the campus over the next several years. Imagine the increase in vehicles and foot traffic that's going to bring. It is imperative, therefore, that Sidney Brooks Road and sidewalks undergo a major overhaul as a result of the aforementioned. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dickerson. Marco Carmona. We'll come back. Lionel Sosu. And then up next, Ernie Bradley.
Hello, I'm Lionel Sosa, and I've been a resident of San Antonio all my life and a downtown resident for over 40 years. And we are lucky enough to live at 126 La Vaca, which is just across from Hemisphere Park. And we kind of feel that it is our own park. My wife and I walk our dogs there every morning and every afternoon, every evening, getting our 10,000 steps. And we think it's one of the loveliest parts of San Antonio. I knew the neighborhood that was there before Hemisphere. I saw it destroyed when Hemisphere came in. I saw Hemisphere bring it to life. And then I saw it lay fallow for some 45 years. But now, just a few years ago, some wonderful things are happening to bring that whole Hemisphere Park area into what it was, a place where people work, live, and play, a place where people can come and enjoy the true San Antonio, a place that is close to La Villita, to the Alamo, and now with this new Hemisphere Boulevard connecting the East Side and Montana Street. What a wonderful, wonderful development it is. So we are asking that you support this $9 million project for the Hemisphere Boulevard. It's the only logical and natural extension and continuation of the work that you have started and that makes San Antonio so wonderful for all of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Sosa. Ernie Bradley.
So my name is Ernie Bradley. I'm the executive chef and owner at the Charity Bar on the corner of Montana and Cherry Street. I'm here to speak in favor of the Hemisphere Boulevard Streets project. I think the development is a very good asset to the east side of San Antonio. I think it gives us more access to the downtown area and brings more awareness to the small businesses that are on our side of town. I know how important the street proximity is. If you've ever been on the Alamo Dome side when a big event's letting out, more access in and out is definitely helpful. I also believe that the bike lanes and things like that are very much needed in this area as well. We're excited to see this happen, and we really hope that this is something that we move forward with as a city. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Jane Gennardi.
And then next will be Kristen Hebron.
Hi, I'm Jane Gennarelli, and I live in Lavaca, and I spend a lot of time in Hemisphere with a friend of mine. We're there. We walk our dogs there also, like Lionel. We walk over for coffee. We get together with friends. We're members of the wine club at Rerooted. We also, as a community service, have a neighborhood newsletter and a neighborhood website. And we use that website to support local businesses and artists. And we consider our neighborhood to be Lavaca, King William, and Hemisphere. And we have taken steps to incorporate Hemisphere into our neighborhood, which is right across Cesar Chavez from Hemisphere. We've published articles about Hemisphere on our website. We pre-announce events that are happening in Hemisphere every week in our newsletter. And we also have a restaurant directory on our website, and we've got all of the Hemisphere restaurants listed there. So we are working to incorporate Hemisphere tightly into the surrounding neighborhood. However, there are some physical and psychological barriers to doing that. The federal buildings on Cesar Chavez are a bit of a wall between Lavaca and Hemisphere. Cesar Chavez itself is probably the biggest obstacle. It's a wide street, cars move quickly, and it's hard to cross. We very, very much support Phase 3 because although it doesn't directly address these issues, it is a very, very necessary first step in making Hemisphere more accessible to its nearby neighbors. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. So you'll get 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Kristen Ebron, and this is,
Michelle Stafford.
and we're District 2 residents. We're here because we want to request an overpass at the intersection of Gibbs Sprawl Road and the Ritterman intersection. If you would like to see the concerns of just under 6,000 residents from over the years, please go to bit.ly/D2 overpass. We are here to represent them. This petition was started 5 years ago, and we have seen no response or movement on this issue. Many of us have given up or become disillusioned that anything will ever happen. Please prove so many wrong, and let's transform our community together. Michelle's going to read off just a few concerns on this petition for you today.
So just a couple of the personal information that people put on there is, I've personally been late and lost a job due to being inconvenienced by this train. When the gentleman tried to explain the situation to the employer said to him, like, I'm going to believe that story. One person wrote, with the enormous increase in traffic flow, there are no suitable alternate routes for travelers, not to mention the numerous near collisions and collisions that have occurred while travelers are blocked by the train. How many people need to be hit or killed by this train before something is done? Emergencies have happened. Ambulances have a difficult time getting through the area, and I have personally seen them drive through the grass to get to the main road because traffic is so backed up. I use that route, and I've been paying a pretty penny to pick my children up because the trains have been sitting on the tracks. It's come to the decision that my husband and I had to choose for me to quit my job and stay home because we were paying approximately $250, which is over half of my paycheck every week for daycare because I was late every day picking up my 3 children. We now live paycheck to paycheck. So someone please tell me how that is fair to me and my family.
So our issues are with safety. Motorist was struck in September. Our issue is also with traffic. There's increased development, both commercial and residential in this area. Thousands of new residents and commuters every year, but this issue continues to go unaddressed. Our issue is also with noise. I bought my home in March, less than a mile away from the tracks. And on my first night, about 10:30, I'm startled awake by horns. Not just a ba ba, I'm talking ba ba ba. I thought surely that isn't consistent, that won't happen again. It happens again and again and again. I lost count that night. It must have been 7 trains before 7:30 a.m. and it happens daily. We're pleading with you as residents, as commuters, as sleep-deprived people, please help us address this issue. Thank you so much for your time. This has been a great pleasure. Thanks.
Thank you, Michelle and Krista. Up next, Dr. Chambers, and after Dr. Matson.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Shawana Chambers. I am Chief Academic Officer of Compass Rose Public Schools. I'm actually going to be speaking in support of the Brook City-based project. So speaking both as a staff member and then also as a parent, as my son is an 8th grader at Compass Rose Legacy. Many of our students travel to school by bus, on foot, on bike, and then also by car. And as you've heard before, there are uneven sidewalks and in some places no sidewalks at all as they're walking from the VIA bus stops to the campus. We're hoping to support the proposed plans for Sydney Brooks because they include upgraded crosswalks specifically for our on-foot commuters, which would also provide a safer commute for our students to and from school. As a parent who drops off every day, my office is also there. Sometimes I'm dropping him off and going to another campus, and sometimes I am also, my office, like I said, is there, and I'm going to be at the Legacy campus. The drop-off and pickup times are increasingly congested because we just have a larger number of students coming to and from the campus. We also have 2 campuses, the elementary campus, which is across from the VIA transport, and then we have the Legacy campus where our middle and high school are. We would hope that this project addresses the growing traffic patterns at Sydney Brooks, and then plans for the future congestion so that myself, as like I said, as a parent and an employee, I can manage my time better and ensure that both my child and I are getting to school and to work on time. I look forward to using the new road and seeing that our students are safely walking to and from school every day. Thank you.
Yeah, and next, after her will be a group made up of Brenda Johnson and Chuck Bren and Commissioner Tommy Calvert.
Good evening. I'm Cynthia Teniente Matson. I'm the president at Texas A&M University, San Antonio. I'm also a D3 resident. We're here to advocate for the $10.6 million infrastructure investment in the bond for Texas A&M San Antonio Regional Center. This is part of a proactive growth initiative. We see ourselves as an anchor institution for economic development in South Bexar County and in South San Antonio specifically. This investment is needed to serve everyone working, living, learning, visiting, and doing business in our area. If you haven't been to campus lately, we're about 12 years old now. We have close to 7,000 students, over 14,000 alumni, and we continue to grow. But this case is about equity. Since the last bond, our area has seen tremendous growth. We've gone through downward expansion. We're now a 4-year university. Just north of our campus is now the Vita communities, which have broken ground. Just east of the campus, we have quite a bit of growth. TJX Distribution Center built around us. Navistar is under construction. Texas A&M San Antonio itself is one of the 13 regional centers in the SA Tomorrow process. Texas A&M San Antonio has never received any bond dollars. We're a growing and thriving area. You may have heard of the $325 million investments that have been made by Toyota Manufacturing. And just adjacent to campus at our west entry, the University Health System has purchased land for future hospital, first of its kind in south of Highway 90. We are not alone in this initiative. We're coming together to talk about making a collective impact. That's what Texas A&M San Antonio is all about with the work that we're doing in the South Bexar County school districts. But our partners include Vita San Antonio, Navistar, Mitchell Lake Audubon Center, University Health, South Star Communities, Palo Alto College, the South and West San Antonio Chamber of Commerce. We ask for your support for the $10.6 million for the infrastructure needs, because these needs are to help us in relief of congested areas as we grow. This is a proactive investment. We appreciate your support in forwarding this to council for consideration and for the voters. Thank you very much.
After this next group is Mr. Carmona. Did he finally show up? Okay.
Good evening, John and Paula and distinguished committee members. My name is Brenda Vickery Johnson. I would like to provide you information about the LINK project. This project is in District 1 and is 100% within the Houston Street TERS. The county has committed $41 million in funding for this project, but additional funds are being requested for 3 bridges. This unique project is estimated that it will have a $5 billion economic impact to our city. I'm going to try to quickly show you a fly-through video of a conceptualization of the project. It's maybe a little long, so I may ask the gentleman in the back to progress it as we move through. Can you go ahead and start the video? Okay, this is video. The LINK project starts in Sunken Park, which is up those trees on the left side of the screen. This development to the right. There's project is meant to circulation system. Progress forward just a little. As you go forward,
Hello, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this evening. My name is Chuck Brim. I'm with Universal Services Group. We are a local developer here in San Antonio. We did the new Thompson Hotel, Arch condominiums here in town, and we're about to undertake one of the largest development opportunities here in San Antonio that the city's ever seen in our River Place project. It was previously announced, so I'm sure most of you might be familiar with it. The Link project is integral to our development there and working together with the city and the county, not only for the traffic on the streets and roads, but also for the pedestrian traffic as well. We feel like that's a long-term investment in our city that will pay many dividends. Our development alone will pay for these in the revenues that we
Thank you,
develop
sir.
over
We're
years
getting, have to wrap up pretty quick, okay? I apologize. I really
that will
apologize.
pay dividends for this investment in our city. Thank you.
I understand. Yeah, they're the group and I'm the same. It's just me. Yeah. So thank you very much. I just want to.
Before you start, sorry, could you say the next name for us?
The next, it was the same group, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Commissioner Calvi, you're speaking by yourself?
Yes, that's
right. Okay, I apologize. Okay, thank you.
Followed by who?
Followed by, it's a group from the Crown Hill Park Neighborhood Association, Larry Larakumba.
And then I have Marco here as well.
Okay,
So we'll do Marco and then
okay.
No problem. Thank you all for your service. I served on the 2007 Drainage Committee, and I thank you all for your time. I look forward to the bus tour. That was something I created with City Manager Scully many years ago, and bringing you to the Link to see this project that pays for itself. What we're asking for is $7 million to be laterally transferred from the existing Main Street reconstruction that was part of the 2017 bond into the 2022 bond, so that we do not tear up Main Street twice and close down Main Street to the businesses that are located there. We're going to ask for $3 million for a bridge on Main Street and $3 million for a bridge at Soledad and $1 million in contingencies for a total of $7 million. We have a letter that we've put into your packets which indicates that if we don't work together as a bond committee and the Bond Citizens Committee doesn't make the recommendation, we will in fact waste $3.4 million of taxpayer money. We will have to redig the utilities twice. We'll have to inconvenience the businesses downtown twice. And of course, it just doesn't make sense. So I'm here to ask for common sense. We look forward to making the rounds with each and every one of you to explain in greater detail how this is very important to the increasing of the park space for community, environmental restoration, the cooling of our urban heat in the downtown area, and potentially looking at location for the Buffalo Soldiers statue that we're looking to create as well. So thank you all for your service, and we look forward to talking with you again. Thank you.
Good evening. How y'all doing? This must be very important because there's a Spurs game tonight. So we'll make this fast. So my name's Marco Carmona. I'm peaking right now at my community service because I'm the secretary of the Alamo Dome Gardens community. We're called Alamo Dome Gardens because we're directly next to the Alamo Dome. I've been in service to this community since 1993, and I've been more than happy to see it grow and flourish. And it's been because there's been a lot of great leadership in the city. One of the wonderful things that San Antonio did on Montana Street was they created this wonderful bus system for the San Antonio Spurs. Unfortunately, and good for them, they moved to the AT&T Center. And so we have this area now in Montana that's no longer used. Speaking as a dad who lives on the east side and always brings my kids to Hemisphere Park, we do run into a little trouble sometimes with that east side connection to downtown. When there's large events at the Alamo Dome, we're cut off and we have to take more dangerous paths through Commerce Street and sometimes even Cesar Chavez. So, you know, the plan for Montana used to work, but now it's outdated. And our community would love to see something wonderful happen there and love to see the east side connected to downtown. So thank you for your time tonight, and I hope y'all will consider this bond. Have a good night.
Thank you. And a little bit confusing on the sign up list here. Are you all with the Crown Hill Park Neighborhood Association?
Yes, we're Crown Hill Park.
Okay. And so it's 3 of you all? Okay. So, and just to let's make sure we all know, it's for
Yes,
groups.
right click.
Individuals are 2 minutes, groups are 3 minutes. And about 30 seconds before, we'll raise our hand and that'll time to wrap up.
All right. Oh, all right. You guys have it figured out. Thank you for having us. My name is Peter Lund. This is Kelly Reed Wallace and Patty Lozano. We're with the Crown Hill Park Neighborhood Association. I'm here today to give you a little bit more detail on an issue Kelly had raised with you a couple weeks ago in one of your prior meetings. Frankly, it's regarding some traffic mitigation needs for our community that we actually expected were going to be on the bond list, and for one reason or another, we didn't quite make it. So we're asking for your consideration to squeeze this back in if that's possible. I'm going to just take a few selected slides from the handout that you received. Crown Hill Park is just west of the airport. You're going to see this image a few times. North is at the top of the image. And it's a diverse community. It has both districts 1 and 9. We have both commercial and residential, including a lot of educational facilities like a school, the natatorium, and also a SAW pumping station. Our 300 residences are rather sequestered. You can only get to Crown Hill Park through 2 streets, Jones-Maltzberger and McCullough. And the massive renovation that TxDOT has planned that will run along 410 from the airport all the way down to Castle Hills West is going to negatively impact both of those roadways. So in a nutshell, what TxDOT plans to do is relieve the highway congestion by increasing the frontage road capacity and then streamlining it. And the way they're going to do that is they're going to remove several highway exits and entrances. They're going to therefore put motorists on the frontage road for longer stretches of time. And they're going to remove a lot of the stoplights along the frontage road. They're also going to shutter a bridge, or at least I should say severely restrict a bridge, which is the one that just happens to serve our community. And just as a side note, TxDOT estimates that the frontage road speeds are going to reach up to 60 miles an hour, which is actually probably faster than the highway is going to be going during certain parts of the day. Now, just so you know, Crown Hill Park already has a diverted traffic problem. And when the backup occurs at the 410-281 interchange, we get a lot of vehicles coming across taking a shortcut. TxDOT has verified this, and it's something that they were hoping to solve. When we look at the nearby businesses, they're warning us that if the bridge at McCullough gets closed, we're going to see a significant increase in diverted traffic coming in the other way to our community. We're really not prepared for that. Our residential streets just aren't prepared for that kind of commercial traffic increase. And the bridge also means that we're going to see more residents using Jones-Maltzberger to get into the community because of the closure near McCullough. And that street really isn't anything more than a country lane at this point. So we're hoping that you'll give us some consideration in that if we wait too long, 2028 means that we'll be living with this problem for several years.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No. I think it's Patricia Larry. Yeah, and then after Patricia Lozano.
Hold on, just really quick. You were
Okay.
Right.
Hello, my name is Larry Larenbide. I'm a resident of District 8 and a resident of the Cedar Point Homeowners Association.
Brian.
I'm here tonight to speak on a section of road off of Loop 1604 near UTSA, the Babcock to Hausman section. This is one section of road which unbelievably has been a county road for years and is servicing UTSA and the growing northwest section of San Antonio, which is probably one of the most growing and sections of this city. I'm not here advocating because I think this would be a nice to have project. I'm here because this section of Babcock Road is dangerous. It's a 2-lane county road. There's a number of subdivisions, apartments, businesses that have come into this area, and this street has not been improved to service this new expansion. Currently, off of this section of Babcock, there are 4 apartment complexes, a condominium, 3 neighborhoods with a 4th coming, a strip center, a future HEB, and additional centers on the way. And that only covers the section inside the loop. I didn't even mention the section outside the loop. In addition, there's a fire station right across the street from our neighborhood. And I have seen at times fire trucks with their lights flashing, horns blaring on an emergency call, having problems trying to get out onto this road because it's been so congested. Oh, excuse me. As I mentioned, there's an HEB plan for the southeast corner of 1604 in Babcock. HEB, along with the strip centers, will bring in even more traffic than what we have now. So basically, we're looking at going from bad to worse. It was reported that the 1604 Babcock intersection currently services 130,000 cars a day. One can only imagine what that's going to be like once HEB comes in and with the future Loop 1604 expansion that's coming into play.
Thank you, sir. We're time to.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Next, we have Brian Martin, and after that will be David Mitchell.
Thank you very much. Howdy, everybody. So I'm Brian Martin from Bike San Antonio. I'm here to speak on behalf of the cycling community across our city. San Antonio Cycling Community stands for making all streets in our city a safe place to be a pedestrian, a cyclist, or a transit user. For far too long, our city streets have been car only, and the 22-2 bond project is an incredible opportunity to promote mobility choices. However, we are acutely aware there are limited fundings here, so we want to present a recommendation that everyone on the committee, we hope, can get behind. That doesn't cost any additional bond dollars. We support a simple change to all the street bond projects written description. The City of San Antonio's Public Works Department needs flexibility as they work to implement all 2022 bond projects. However, these descriptions need to also state the possibility of any projects can be for cyclists, whether through bike lanes, cycle tracks, multi-use paths, or other infrastructure. We support the additional or the alteration of all project descriptions to include the following phrase: bike infrastructure as appropriate in alignment with the guidelines and priorities identified in the update to the bike network plan. This change will align bond project designs with the new bike network plan and free Public Works to determine the most appropriate type of bike facility on each roadway to support safety, land use, and mobility goals for all stakeholders. Additionally, this change will shift the way we discuss bike facilities. They are not amenities. They are essential infrastructure. They can be everywhere. Passing a motion to amend all project descriptions will not cost any additional bond dollars. In addition, we also support the current allocation of $10 million to the new city bike network and will excitedly support any increase to this funding to help implement bike infrastructure in every city council district. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. And after Mr. Mitchell, we will have Celeste Brown.
Good evening. My name's David Mitchell. I'm from District 10. I'm a private citizen here, and I am here to champion line item number 52, Topper Wine from Nacogdoches to Raintree Forest. I'm here to put on a little bit of a personal feel or appeal for this line item. As you can see from the picture here, and it's not very big, but a new development was placed here north of Topper Wine. And every time it rains, whether it's a minimal amount of rain or a major amount of rain, that rain follows its way down Cherokee Path, down to Topper Wine, going downhill towards Topper Wine. Now, the first diversion it takes is right here at prime time. If it were to go just a little bit further, right behind prime time, there is a drainage ditch. Well, unfortunately, if you've ever heard the movie The River Runs Through It, well, unfortunately, it runs through my house. This is the front picture of my house right here. I've had to improvise a dam to keep water from coming into my house. It's not advancing. Sorry. Yeah, there it is right here. Okay, this is the one picture that I wanted to point out. As you can see on the previous picture right up here. Oh, here we go. Yeah, there it goes. As you can see, this is Topper Wine right here. So Topper Wine comes down, it's a downgrade. So is prime time. Prime time comes down, and as the water collects, it's actually deteriorating my sidewalk. It's pulling here. This was the dam that you saw earlier that flows directly into my house. So I just wanted to put a personal touch on this. Thank you very much for addressing my concerns.
Next will be Celeste Brown, and after her will be, I believe it's Parker Dixon.
Good evening. My name is Celeste Brown. I am a District 3 resident, but I am also the Director of Advocacy and Communications for Compass Rose Public Schools. So I am here to speak in favor of infrastructure improvements to Sidney Brook Street at Brook City Base. So you heard a little bit earlier from one of our parents and our Chief Academic Officer, Dr. Chambers, and I wanted to echo the sentiments and really just talk about the level of growth that we've seen. At current, we have 2 campuses at Brooks, and we serve over 900 students, and it's going to be growing upwards towards 1,500 students within the next 3 years at the latest. Anyone who has ever driven by through Sidney Brooks is well aware that the road is in dire need of some tender love and care, right? So really, I just want to make sure that we acknowledge the fact, especially with the campus only being accessible from the street, that the infrastructure improvements will help the students, the teachers, the residents, and anybody else who accesses Brooks as a major thoroughfare. And the area is constantly increasing in traffic congestion, et cetera. So that's pretty much it, right? Keep it short and sweet, that we ask that you support these infrastructure improvements to Brook City Base, and ask you to think about, making sure that kiddos and those that do not have sidewalks get access to basic things that every San Antonian should have. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And after Parker will be Nathan Morgan.
Good evening. Hi, my name is Parker Dixon. I'm a resident of D1, and I'm the Tobin Hill Community Association Safety Chair. I have a narrated video presentation for a quarter-mile stretch of sidewalk that's in need of replacement, and I'll let the video do the talking for me now. Sidewalk replacement from North St. Mary's to Breckenridge Park, the Zoo, Sunken Gardens, Mulberry Avenue. This is where the 2017 bond stopped. It did not replace this narrow, broken sidewalk. It didn't improve this intersection. It didn't improve this impassable sidewalk. This connects Tobin Hill, Monte Vista, Alta Vista, the Pearl to Breckenridge Park and the Zoo. There's many problems. There's big bumps. There's broken pieces of sidewalk that make it difficult for anybody to pass that's on foot, bike, wheelchair. This intersection is not safe to cross. There are essentially 2 lanes that you have to cross, the turning lane here and then a through traffic lane onto 281 here. You can see the traffic coming through here moves very quickly, and it's very open. Nowhere really comfortable for pedestrians to stand. It could be narrowed and slowed down and improved for pedestrians and make it a more direct route for pedestrians, by people on bikes, anybody in a wheelchair. It's a very difficult route to take whenever you're not an able-bodied person, especially right here. There's no ramp. It goes right into the road. I have several neighbors that are in wheelchairs and they cannot get down this way to go to the Breckenridge Park, the zoo, all the great things of our neighborhood. There's no ramp here, and it's connected to an extremely narrow sidewalk. It measures 28 inches. There's a big bump here. This is just not an acceptable sidewalk, and it needs to be replaced. It carries all the way up to Mulberry Avenue and the zoo right here. It's all broken right here. This needs to be replaced. Thank you.
Thank you. Nathan Morgan. And after Nathan, the last speaker is Jane Gennarelli. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that last name. Oh, she did. Okay. All right.
Good evening. I'm Nathan Morgan. I'm a fellow committee member. I serve on the Facilities Committee. Happy to be here and visit with you. I want to share with you some observations. We're facing a potentially endless line and wide variety of special interests, from charities to developers, approaching us for some of this bond money, for a piece of this bond money. We are expanding our asset base from the perspective of streets, bridges, and sidewalks, but neglecting maintenance on our current inventory. We have a critical need to fix our streets, bridges, and sidewalks that currently exist. So what I have is a proposal, and the proposal is to mitigate current public mobility constraints. Carefully look at the list of items in your booklet that have to do with streets, bridges, sidewalks, and limit the scope of this committee to those items strictly as possible. And the proposition is to effectively do a line item veto. Pull out all of the items that have nothing to do, that are incongruent with streets, bridges, and sidewalks, and put into a separate category, consolidate those incongruent projects into an additional bond issue category. That'll be it for now. Thank you.
Is there anybody we missed? We're on schedule. Trying to get everybody. Any citizens to be heard we missed? Okay. So next, we'll move on to the bus tour discussion. I think you all received by email today, and there's a printout right here. This is the proposed. I'll give you all a second to grab it. This will be Saturday's bus tour. This is a draft. We thought it'd be easier to kind of begin the discussion with a draft proposal. The idea is, of course, not to go to all of the proposed projects, but to get a general sense of the area around most of them. And I see Mr. Sanchez is here. You can talk a little bit more about kind of why we're doing this and what the goals are. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Well, we wanted this, we just wanted to put something out there, basically. This is not set in stone. And when we first mentioned the bus tour, we told you it would be from 9 to 2. You can see we identified several projects here that would take us to 3. And Razi and I and some of the staff were talking, if we actually go to all of these sites, we'd probably be there till 4 or 5. So don't want to occupy all of your time. This is really just a starting point. If you look at these projects, you know, they kind of take us around the city, hit those regional centers that we've talked about. Wanted to give you a variety of projects from, you know, simple reconstruction of the street to the more visionary projects. So that's what we were trying to do here. What we really want is to hear from you. So if you want to take this list, we talk about it tonight, or if you want to mull it over, give us some feedback. We can refine this list. Our idea is to start this bus tour at 9 and finish at 2, and really give you a sample of the different types of projects that we're doing, and give you a variety of projects throughout the city. But we have some 60 plus projects that we're proposing, so it's impossible to see all of them. So anyway, this is a starting point, and we really want to hear from you tonight.
I think with that, we'll start the discussion. Thank you.
So could we understand briefly how the projects that were selected for this draft were selected, just so we understand the rationale we're working from?
Yeah, Razi, thank you.
Thank you for the question, Dan. I think the idea was, since we are going to start at the DST building on Saturday morning, we just do counterclock or clockwise to do the city of San Antonio, and have a lunches at 11 o'clock and they end at the same location we start. Our idea is this is too many projects to really see, even on 3 hours time frame. Our idea, we want to provide you more for you to really shortlist and give us. And if you want to add a project and delete a project, that's really fine with us.
Any other questions, comments? Go ahead, Marilyn. Melissa.
I was just curious. I don't know how everybody else feels. I was not knowing where everything is really located. I was be curious to see maybe the high dollar projects, the 18 million, the 16 million, the 15 million, those. The list right now has about 5 or 6, 6 million, 7 million, $5 million projects. And I would be curious to get more of an insight into the high dollar ones.
First of all, we were trying to make sure we have at least a project or maybe a 2 from each council district. For us, project is as important as no matter this is 2 million or 15 million. But if you want to change any project, we were not really looking for the dollar figure. We were looking geographically where it makes sense for us to go.
Bob Bishop, District 10. On the bus tour, will we be able to discuss it during the 10 minutes of each street?
I think we are going to have a handout for each committee when they are going through. The drainage is going to have a handout for the project we have selected to bus tour, to give you some description, the dollar figure, the scope of the project, benefit of the project. And we will be available. We are going to have on each bus, we are going to have at least 3 to 5 city staff to answer any question anybody has about that project.
And quick point, just to give you a sense of what the feel will be like that day. We're not all going to get off the bus at each stop, just because the logistics would make that, it would add too much time. So we will stay on the bus, but stop obviously and have the discussion.
Actually, mainly the safety issue, because most of the roadway project is on the roadway. If we stop bus there and have 40 people to get out of the bus, and then after 15, 20 minutes to get them back in the bus is going to be a very challenging issue.
Hey there, Matthew Biza, District 7. I was just wondering a little bit about the scope that we'd be looking at. Some of these projects are pretty lengthy, whereas other projects are very much defined in a certain area. I was wondering if we might be able to get a better idea about what we might look at each of these to help us better understand which ones we might want to select. As an example, Kleber Road from I-10 to Callahan is about 15 minutes. I mean, you know, that whole length. So others might be a little bit shorter that we could actually spend some more time getting down at, et cetera. That'd be helpful.
Or Andrew Salazar
Yes.
from District 4. I think, in other words, if we can just get those descriptions a day or two before the actual bus tour, so we can just have some time to look over them and read the description, and then as we're driving or whatever it may be, we at least know what to look out for. I think that could be more appropriate per se.
I just want to acknowledge that comment. Is that city staff something we can do? Get it? Okay, perfect.
Hi, Linda Vella, District 6. For our district, I think we'd like to recommend either Marbach or the Enrique Barrera project. Those are two that were high up on our priorities.
I don't think we need to do a formal vote, but I'm hearing a thumbs up. I think that counts for a vote. Okay. Rozzy did a thumbs up, so yes.
Hi, Tamara from Tamara Benavides, District 10. For our district, we'd like, instead of Bulverde, can we recommend Classen, which is high on our list? Is that possible? Thank you.
Any other comments or, I'm sorry, go on, Rozzy.
Little suggestion, why not you provide us, each council district provide us the project they like to see, then we can create the new revised list. We really like to keep, if possible, maybe 6 or so. I'm very concerned to be able to finish 10 projects by 3 o'clock, unless the committee is willing to stay at the field longer time.
And so what you're suggesting is that over the next couple of days, each district delegation suggests to you the one project they would like?
Correct. Looks like the committee has a desire to see Marbach Road and Crossing, and we are okay with that.
I mean, that's
Is that okay with committee members?
okay.
Okay.
Why don't you go on, John?
Sorry,
please?
if I could just offer, we need to know by tomorrow to be able to plan the logistics. And I would just say that obviously we'll take all of your feedback, but if we can't go to all 10, we're not going to be able to go to all 10, right? So even if we get a suggestion from all 10, just know that we're going to try and route as appropriate.
Is tomorrow defined as 5 p.m. tomorrow or?
I'm open to the definition of tomorrow.
Sure. Go.
Melissa Montemayor, District 9, and not in my district, but we're looking out for all of San Antonio. We've heard so much about Medical Center and Brooks. I would think that we would want to see, because they've made such a great effort of coming to our last meeting and tonight. So I know I speak for myself. I'd like to see those projects.
Just so I'm clear, your suggestion is to see all 5 of the regional projects. Is that what you're suggesting?
Well, I mean, Brooks Medical Center, I know you have Texas A&M here already, but I didn't see a project at Brooks or the Medical Center project.
That's helpful. And we'll work on that. And just know that if all of them don't make it, right, you're obviously can avail yourself to get there, and we can help connect you if you want to connect to folks while you're there.
Beyond Alariola District 3, I mean, also I'm putting some thoughts together regarding beyond a bus tour. Would it just be possible also to maybe get some kind of video work or photography of some of these areas that we can also just digest as a committee?
Al, I think that's a good idea. I think if we have a refined list, yes, I think harder to do one of all of the projects, right? But if you have a certain set that you'd like, absolutely.
Well, I think that was my point, is that if there are some that we're not going to be able to do in the tour.
Yeah,
that-
if we could cull that down, I think that's very possible.
So Dan Roster, District 6, I think it would be nice, comment was made about the high dollar projects. I think another nice thing to focus on where it makes sense with the route is projects that cross multiple districts. So like we have Calabria Road, which is a great example of that. Definitely want to keep that. But if there are other instances where we can do that, I think that'd be fantastic. Kill more birds with one stone.
Don.
All right, great. Don Rios, District 7. I wanted to possibly throw out an idea here. I listened to the individuals that talked about the Rittiman-Gibbs-Brawl Railroad crossing. And I know they're not on the list. I think they have almost 8,000 people on their change.org website. Would it be possible to add them to this bus tour? Maybe it gives us a different perspective.
I mean, we could certainly visit, but the issue is that there's not a defined scope at this point of that project. So it would be hard to sort of describe what we were visiting.
Early this year, we submitted one for MPO funding. Unfortunately, MPO didn't pick up. That's a good project for federal funding when the money comes down, and we are already working on that. But that's a very expensive project to include part of this bond. It's probably $40 million or so.
Any questions? I'm sorry, Christine?
Are any of the streets that are listed here on this tour agenda F streets?
No, but our idea was when we are traveling some of these F Street, we may drive by intentionally to show what really F Street means. We have not identified any F Street we are going to do. F Street is really part of our street maintenance program, which is a 5 years program. Council approves every budget year. And really, these projects we do every year through the budget process. This time we are proposing 100 million to come from the bond, but this is really a part of our SMP annual program.
And I had a
We
follow-up.
will,
if-
Christine, I'm sorry.
Okay.
We will make it a point to drive by several F streets to just give folks a flavor of what an F street looks like and feels like when you drive over it.
And Christine has a follow-up and then.
My District 1 this is Christine Vina, District 1. I believe our District 1 colleagues are willing to cede the time on the tour for District 1, since on this list, we really have just a piece of one street and the others are generic categories rather than specific streets. So
That's very helpful. Thank you.
we'll take the money instead.
Mike, go ahead.
How you doing? Mike Garza, District 8. I wanted to talk some more about the Link project, the downtown job that got described today. I know we're lucky enough to have the commissioner here. Is there any way, I know it was kind of a rush deal, is there any way we can ask some more questions about that project?
Yes, I think that's fine, yeah. If somebody, they have some more questions, Mr. Garza, about the Link project, so yeah, if you could go up to the microphone.
If I might, could we finish the tour discussion first,
Oh,
if that's
yeah,
okay?
right.
And then, I mean, they're going to be here.
Yeah.
Unless it's related.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments on the bus tour? Mark?
Thank you. Mark Hammond, District 5. I'm glad to see that the bus tour includes 2 projects in District 5. As you're looking at the Brazos Street corridor, I'd like for you to look out the window of your bus and notice how close the sidewalks are to the street, and at the same time, how close the sidewalks are to the property line, and at the same time, how narrow the sidewalks are, and that there are telephone poles in the sidewalks. So even though there are curb cuts for wheelchairs to get through, there's nowhere for the wheelchairs to go. That's a crucial project. On Culebra Road, I'd like for you to notice that in 2 places between Bandera Road going west toward St. Mary's University, there are in 2 places, 2 very long blocks in each place where the sidewalk, although it's there, has bushes and trees growing from it. In some places, even though it's a sidewalk, you can't walk on it at all without going into the street. I'm also wondering if we might be able to expand the scope of that project to fund sidewalks between Callahan Road and Alamo Downs Parkway. There are parts of sidewalks there, but they are not connected. And there are lots of pedestrian fatalities along Culebra. Thank you.
Any other questions about the bus tour? Yeah, Taylor?
Hello? Okay. Linda Vella, District 6. I think that portions of Culebra are actually F streets. So they're not long portions, but there are portions of Culebra that are F street, which leads me to believe that at least some of the adjacent sections might not be F, but they might be pretty close.
Matt, go ahead.
This may have in part been mentioned previously, but I also think it'd be helpful to have included information such as how many pedestrian deaths are within these corridors, other types of considerations that we may not physically see when we're there at the time, but also other pieces of information that will be helpful for us to take into consideration. Thank you.
Jim?
Rozzy, did I understand that you would have drainage and figures also for these locations in addition to just the streets?
I'm sorry, Jim, I didn't follow the question.
Of the locations that we go to, will we have drainage, the drainage cost also in addition to the streets and bridges and sidewalks? Because they're a total package in many cases.
On the certain project, we have funded from 2 propositions. Yes, we will have. Good example is is Marbach Road is one of them, is Council District 4. Actually, that's a good suggestion. And Council District 6, you kill two birds with one stone. And half of the money is coming from the drainage, and half of the money is coming, yes, we will be able to identify. Or a certain area we have money is coming from TERS. We can also identify that too.
Thank you.
Anything else about the bus tour?
I'd just like to define tomorrow if we could. I'm open, but I just want to set the parameters so that we can get the route done. So it's just, yeah.
No, fair enough. And thank you, Commissioner Calvert, for your patience. We'll get to the question about the link in just a second. So what I heard everybody say was that by tomorrow, 5 p.m., get Stephanie and John
Yep.
your district suggestion for which project.
Yep.
We also heard other suggestions that you all had we all took notes on that, so we'll try to incorporate that. I think what I also heard is that staff can't promise we'll get to all 10 suggested projects, probably won't get to all regional projects, but they will make a sincere effort to take everybody's comments into account, and then we will send that draft out, and then you will hopefully provide a little bit of information about each project we'll be going to.
Perfect. And then anything.
I'm sorry, including the drainage, yeah, right.
Got it. Okay.
Is that
works.
we all good?
Was that clear?
Okay,
Fine.
Great.
perfect. Mr. Garza, I apologize, and you had a question for Commissioner Calvert. Thank you.
No, I apologize for jumping ahead on the agenda. I thought we were in the full discussion and analysis. No, I have a question about multiple projects. I figured this one I wanted to discuss first, respect the commissioner's time. Appreciate you being here today. I want to better understand the request, the history. I know there's some mentioning in your letter here about the 2012 bond, the 2017 bond, not wasting $3.4 million of taxpayer dollars.
Right.
I know it was kind of a rushed presentation. If you
Sure.
could maybe just elaborate a little bit on
I
that.
really appreciate that. Let me just say, I appreciate the bus tour conversation because I remember creating the bus tour idea with City Manager Cheryl Scully. And we did actually stay all the way till 4 o'clock to go through all of the projects. And so, just always remember that we work for you. These are your tax dollars. And when it comes to doing due diligence on the taxpayers' projects, we have no better place to be than to go and see these things. So that's just the thought. Quickly, the link project that we're trying to do is surrounded by the largest economic development project in the history of downtown. $450 million and 5 buildings, which when I talk about the project will in essence pay for itself, that means that from that infrastructure, from those new developments, those tax dollars and that revenue will end up going to District 10, to District, and all over in the years to come. And so what we're looking at is common sense, and sometimes in government, common sense isn't that common. But we have in the 2017 bond, $7 million was allocated to reconstruct Main Street. $2 million was for engineering. We have not let the city has not let that project out, but it plans to let that project this year. What we have recommended, rather than tearing the street up twice, since Main Street is included in the $41.1 million of the county allocated, is that we simply lateral that Main Street money, that $7 million, into the 2022 bond, so that we don't disrupt the business and commerce and the folks who live in the area, and that we don't have to do utilities twice. Now, statutorily, there's a little bit of issue, but it's not insurmountable. As my letter says, we've consulted with bond counsel, and they have indicated that it is possible for the Main Street section to be put into like a phase 2 or phase 3 in the 2022 bond. So what we're asking for is about $7 million that'll help us get basically 2 bridges, a bridge on Main and a bridge on Soledad, right? And so that would bring the costs of the raise for this link project to 48.1 total. We believe the Houston Street Tax Increment Refinance Zone, the TERS, can help fund it in the future. There's going to be a gap. and we'll go to Washington and leverage federal dollars as well. So that's really the proposal. I mean, we would love to have the 7 million from the 2017 bond and another 7 million from this bond, but at least getting that amount of money, at least a placeholder for 7 million, seems like it makes a hell of a lot of common sense.
And Commissioner, I think Razi has a follow-up, but then just so we're all on
Sure.
the same page, we're going to move on to group discussion after this. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Little follow-up on Link project. We have worked very closely with Bexar County and the design team, which Wikileaks and Associate, and San Antonio River Authority, which they are really managing this project for Bexar County. Our project is correct, $7 million is already, design is done, bid is done, we have the contractor, we just need to take that one for council. 2 weeks ago, Rod and I met with the designer of this link. We asked them, you give us any adjustment, we could do utility adjustment, we could do part of our project. As long as cost is small, we can absorb it, we do that. Our project is solo that and main. Solo that, all we are going to do, mill and overlay. That's really a maintenance project. On main, we are doing a little more detailed construction. But if they provide us what adjustment we need to do, part of the utility, we are open to do it. But project already bid, we have the contractor, we are just going for the council approval to start the construction.
Let me just wrap up one quick thing. We understand all of that, but we believe that the power of this Citizens Committee is to put a placeholder in the bond. Whether or not we are able to work through this and lateral this is a political decision in many ways. But because of our experience in San Pedro Creek at the county, the contractors out there on the ground, and you know, there's a lot of feedback from Centro and groups like that that don't want to see this have to be dug up twice. I mean, it's just, you know, it is what it is. We didn't want to let this be remiss in the conversation from this committee. And so what I'm respectfully asking, even though I hear what city staff is saying, I think the argument that we've made still remains that there will be a longer extension of the or a longer period for the construction to take place and more disruption. And the folks over at San Pedro Creek estimated that it'd be about a $3.4 million net loss to the taxpayer. So we stand by what we've said.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
So now it's group discussion. As I said, this will be the last time well, I guess we'll be on the bus tour too, but thoughts you have for possible amendments, motions that will be considered formally at the fourth meeting, but also just other discussions about the proposals you heard tonight or anything else. Thank you.
Questions to staff, anything? Bob, go ahead.
Him and then Don.
Yeah, go ahead.
Believe it or not, we do read the minutes on the, to the city manager. We were kind of concerned, is that minutes or are those requests?
Yeah, I believe they're requests for information. The memos that you're receiving back, that's what you're referring to?
Yeah, so we went through it. One of the things that we noticed is about the voting, that we'd be voting individually, but that certainly raises a question next meeting. What about second? If we have a second on the motion, can it be within our district or does it have to be outside of our district for the second motion?
That's a great question. We have representatives from the city attorney's office who could answer that question. It sounds like the no, it does not have to be outside of your district.
The other thing is we were reading the minutes, we saw the equity scores that were put in there, and we have a couple of requests for the city manager. And I'll give you the written one as well. District 10 requests that the city manager post prominently on the city website the district equity scores, providing transparency to the taxpayers is paramount. Second request is District 10 also requests the city manager provide data sources, metric components, and the calculation of each equity score to the advisory committee members.
And just so the resolution for District 10, that'll be, will you email that as well, just so we don't lose anything that you said?
Yeah, who would I send it to?
Just for clarity, the equity matrix is published with a series of maps on the city's website already, and you can sort of dive down into that data.
But it doesn't talk about collectively for each district. It's by census. And we would like to have more clarity. I think everybody here in this room would like it as well.
So you should email that to John and Stephanie as a formal request.
Okay.
All right. And do you have, when I say those names, do you have the email addresses?
Yeah, I've got the email
Okay.
addresses.
Don?
Thank you very much. Don Rios, District 7. I wanted to follow up and ask the residents of Crown Hill Park a little bit more about their request. I want to thank them, their neighborhood association, for their presentation. I know this is the second time they've come to us, and their concern is valid and also alarming. My question to them, though, is what is their proposed solution and scope?
They're coming up now.
We'll give the Crown Neighborhood Association 2 minutes to respond.
Thank you for the opportunity to respond to that question. As I mentioned at the previous meeting, it was actually Razi that, when our neighborhood association met with him, that bond money would be required for improvements on Jones-Maltzberger. One of the proposed solutions we have to protect the residents and the school children in that neighborhood would be, one, either a traffic light at the cross street where the school comes in, or a dedicated center turn lane that would allow, that one would not block traffic that's coming in on Jones-Maltzberger, that would safely allow the cars to wait until it's safe to turn into the neighborhood. The other solution that we had talked about perhaps would be increasing Jones-Maltzberger to 4 lanes, but that would be a longer term solution. And given that TxDOT is going to begin their project in 2023, there is some urgency to this, whereas some of the other outside organizations that are requesting funding for street improvements, there is no true urgency. There's also no public safety risk that they've been mentioned. In our neighborhood, we've already had a child die as a result of a traffic fatality. The students at the Robbins Academy, they also, for both physical education and their track team, they run in the neighborhood, they run on Jones-Maltzberger, they make a circular route. So there are valid safety concerns. In addition to the disabled veterans in the group homes in our not veterans, but disabled adults in the group home in our neighborhood who frequent the streets and the sidewalks. And I will also mention that there have been several homes in our neighborhood that have been struck by cars. One home alone has been struck twice in the last 10 months. It's a miracle that either the residents of that home were not killed or any individuals that happen to be walking along that sidewalk. So by failing to mitigate these safety concerns, there are true risks to the residents and the school children in the Crown Hill Park neighborhood. And that's why we are begging for assistance to make sure that this is not ignored and pushed on down the road, because the risk increases every time,
That's
it
time.
becomes worse and worse as the TxDOT project moves along.
Thank you. Thank you. Razi?
Yes, we have been working with the neighborhood association with Kelly and Peter for actually early this year. Recently, not too long ago, we met with Councilman Bravo and neighborhood association. The plan is to do, first of all, to do the traffic study, identify problem is going to cause by TxDOT closing some of those roadway, and also find a solution to proceed. We haven't started the traffic study yet, but it's going to be starting pretty soon after communication with Council District 1.
I just had a follow-up question for Ozzy. Is there an identified like quad sheet for any of those potential solutions that the city's identified? I know you just mentioned that you are going to do a traffic study. I was just wondering if there's any previous work that has
No,
been done.
we have not done any previous work. One of the potential, as Kelly mentioned, making the Jones-Maltzberger wider than what's there today. Today is 2-lane traffic roadway. We may end up making that one 4-lane and with traffic lights.
Dan, go ahead, and then Christine, and then we'll have Joseph.
Thank you. Dan Roster, District 6. I'm curious to know, first of all, I want to echo my colleague, Mr. Rios's comments about thanking the Neighborhood Association for taking the time to come out here. I know it's sometimes a thankless job representing a neighborhood, and it's great what you're doing. I'd like to understand from the city. So I understand a house has been hit twice. Actually, the neighborhood I live in is dealing with a similar issue, and so I'm pretty familiar with that kind of situation. And I guess I'm curious what the timeline has been, given that I know one house has been hit multiple times, potentially others. Presumably, the city has done some work prior to now to evaluate the situation. I would hope. I understand you said we hadn't done traffic studies yet. Has there been any work done up to this point?
Yeah, then the challenges we have, our need is $6.6 billion throughout the city. Our obligation to take care of the existing problem. And of course, we need to look for future, for potential problem may exist. We have worked very closely with council district, for every council district, on selection of this project.
So I'm also curious, so obviously we're talking about a large scale renovation of an existing road, adding lanes, these sorts of things. Are there other traffic calming, mitigating things that we could do that are maybe cheaper and can be done now to at least reduce the risk that's being presented to this neighborhood, things like speed bumps? It was noted that Google is currently sending traffic through the neighborhood. What can we do to reduce the attractiveness of those roads to people attempting to drive through the neighborhood?
I think our intention is to traffic study to identify what we can do in short term and what we can do for long term.
Okay. I would encourage city staff to, as you noted, focus both on the short term and the long term, because it sounds like people are dying, and that needs to stop. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Christine?
That was also my same question about whether any studies had been done prior to this. There's one slide on here that I wanted to ask about in the Crown Hill presentation that says Crown Hill Park pedestrians walking to North Star Mall or the VIA station will be given a crosswalk with no stoplight. And so the image shows crosswalks across both frontage roads of 410. And am I to understand that the stoplights are going to be removed and that the crosswalks will be unsignalized then?
What TxDOT's plan is, when they remove the semaphore at the McCullough Street Bridge on the frontage road at that intersection, which is right by a major hotel, our neighborhood's access to the VIA Transit Station to North Star Mall will be relegated to a crosswalk across a frontage road that has no stoplight at all. I believe that they had mentioned that there's going to be some sort of blinking signal that maybe they'll put in, but the traffic will be moving. It'll be 2 to 3 lanes. It'll be moving up to 60 miles an hour by TxDOT's own estimates.
With the crosswalk?
At that crosswalk. And the only thing that'll make it feasible for our residents to get to the other side of 410 will be potentially a blinking light.
Joe?
What is the timeline for doing a study? Would it be viable for this bond, given the time it takes to do one?
I'll ask Razi to respond. He was talking to another committee member. The question, Razi, is the study going to be done in time for the project to be funded in this bond for the Crown Hill neighborhood?
It will be very challenging because council is supposed to vote on the project list in late January, and February comes, council has to call for the bond election. I think the traffic study at minimum, especially coming December, not too many people, it's a big holiday time. Traffic study will probably be done in April of next year or so. But we have an additional option. We have other source of funding, MPO, federal government. Is really not the bond. Bond is a big part of our infrastructure, but not really the only part of it.
So Razi, how do you prioritize this project if we don't move it up or fund it or make a recommendation for funding it? How do we know you prioritized it some other way?
I think in order to include this project in Council District 1, one project has to be removed because we are talking about the dollar good number of the dollar figure for this
I
project. We
I
haven't
guess
done
what
the
I'm talking about is your other options you gave, NPO and, go ahead, Ron.
No, well, Joe, what I was going to say is, you remember the first meeting, we talked about, we have a bucket and the bucket is so big and only so many projects can fit in there. But I also am asking this committee to draw the line and to list some other projects, that we don't have funding for. So that should council make the bucket bigger, we can add those, or should federal dollars become available, or, maybe there's some savings later on down the road as we do some of these projects. We have a prioritized list from this committee telling us, these are our priorities for projects for you to address in the future. So I really hope that at the end of the day, you're going to give us, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 projects that, in priority order, we would like for you to, find a way at some point in the future to address these projects. Or should council make our bucket bigger, you would add these. So I do think you can help us with that at the end of this process.
Okay. And then I had another question. I just want to be clear. I think I understood that the county and the city are not on the same page with the link project. Is that correct?
I don't know. I would say we are not on the same page. We have our project is going for construction shortly. They haven't really hardly started their design project. They don't have 100% funding. They are asking us to kill our project and provide money for them, which is according to bond description, public vote. We couldn't do that. Bond description is very clear on extending continuation of Soledad and Main. We designed the project. We had community meeting. We know what needs to be done. The area needs to be done. I think that's what our position is.
Okay, I just want to be clear that you have differing opinions about timelines and funding.
We have our project and our schedule, and we want to proceed with that.
Okay, understood.
Steve, go ahead. Thank you. So Steve Gonzalez, District 9. So we, our D9 guys submitted some question November 18th and wanted to see if there was a timeline for answering those. It's similar to what D10 just asked. That's why I'm asking.
Do you remember the question?
I have them here on my phone if you want me to.
I think what would make the most sense, he's talking about a question that didn't get answered. And it's come up a couple times with some other people as well. I think I would just recommend tonight, tomorrow morning, email John, Stephanie, copy myself and Paula.
Okay.
And that's for anybody else that's come up and said, didn't get something answered, and then we'll make sure that gets followed up on. Is that fair?
We had sent to everybody you just mentioned already on the 18th, but we can do it again.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm saying now we know that, as you've stated, it didn't get answered, so we'll give it more urgency.
All right.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Hi, Razi. Andrew Salazar from District 4. We kind of just wanted to take a second to talk about District 4. We've spoken with our, community leaders, councilwoman and such. And one of the projects we want to see implemented in the future outside of this bond, since it's not going to be included, or at least we're not going to make the recommendation for it since we're satisfied with the ones we have on there, would be Medina Base. Obviously, that's a very big project, over 12 million. One of the biggest reasons we want to see that is because there's one of the oldest communities of housing within District 4 in that area, as well as with the park right there. It's actually the only road that doesn't have any bike access, or I should say bicycle facilities to kind of get you from that area to the park. That's one of the projects we'd really like to see, thought about in the future with other types of funding and such like that. That's a really, a lot of the housing that was built in 06 that didn't end up happening because of 08, now has been fulfilled and full, and now you see a lot of more traffic in that area. So that's one of the projects that we really would like city staff to think about for the future. That's one of the projects, that we would like to see as well in District 4 kind of expanded upon.
Okay.
Dan, go ahead, and then.
Thank you, Dan Roster, District 6. Razi, you can stay up if you want. So this one's also for you. So this is regarding one of the public comments that came in regarding language for bicycles. My understanding of the bond language as it exists today.
We lost you on audio there.
Just for now.
Thank you. So the question was, Razi, the existing bond language that's on there today, my understanding is it already covers creating infrastructure for vulnerable road users as bond dollars and project infrastructure support. Is that correct? We've had a lot of talk about kind of leaving things vague and all that sort of thing to allow for those things when they make sense.
That's correct, Dan. We intentionally really write the project scope very general because really the true design, when we go to community and ask them what they really want on that roadway. Good example, we had a project in Council District 2. Existing was a 4 tight lane and narrow sidewalk. We proposed wider sidewalk, bike lane, and 3 lane roadway, and they didn't like it. They didn't support it. We went back for 4 lane, no bike lane, and sidewalk. That's the really reason, because through start, when we go to community, asking them what you really like to see on this parks, library, community center, or the street project.
Socorro?
Okay, hello. This is for Razi, also Socorro Morales, District 7. I just wanted to get more information about the Rudiman Road and Gribbs Sprawl project. It sounds like that's something that's already been discussed or under discussion. Can you give us more information on that or where that is?
It is very similar. We have a project called Zarzamora Overpass. It's Council District 5. We have been working on this project for many years. Finally, 2017 bond had 10 million from the bond, and we got 19 million or so from MPO to create overpass. The problem is not just safety, and many times train stops there and cause 10, 15, 20 minutes delay. We did propose this project as a part of the MPO request early this year. Unfortunately, they didn't pick it up. Very costly project. Our intention is still this project in our radar. Whenever opportunity comes, we will push forward to get funding.
David, and then we'll go to Don.
Hi, this question is also for Razi, David Benprod, District 1. Razi, I think the statement that Brian made earlier about bike infrastructure was noting the variability of how bike infrastructure is written about. In some descriptions, they're amenities, other times they're lanes, other times it's actually bike infrastructure, other times it's multimodal. I think the idea is that since we're going through a bike network plan right now, and that plan is going to be redefining what roads can have bike infrastructure on it or should have bike infrastructure on it, that we offer you the most flexibility as possible and use language that directly incorporates the upcoming plan so that you're not put in a box when it says like a bike lane when a multi-use path is a better fit. Does that make sense? And is that a feasible option?
Yeah, first of all, we are working on our bike master plan, and I work very closely with our transportation department to make sure identify those roads we can safely include bike lane, and we want to do that one. We just don't want to build a bike lane because it sounds good, but people is not comfortable using because it's so narrow or very high-speed roadway. I'm not sure really people wants to drive on 45 mile per hour, travel. And when you call 45, more likely they're driving 55 per hour. Do you really want to ride your bike on those roadways? We are looking for the safer place for biker, pedestrian, and people is on the vehicle are traveling.
Don, go ahead.
This question is also for Razi. I'm not trying to put you on the spot or belabor the concern from Crown Hill, but I do recognize that bond funding is finite. I also understand that there's a priority list, and we could always put this concern regarding Jones-Maltzberger on the to-do list. But my question is, do we have an estimate of how much that project would be if we were to expand Jones-Maltzberger to 4 lanes, add the requested traffic light, add the dedicated turning lane, of course, the sidewalks with curbs, along with that to promote pedestrian mobility and safety. I'm just asking for a rough figure. That way we at least know what we're discussing here.
I think we can get rough figure, but you really have to know what is the problem you are trying to solve and how are you going to solve and what's going to cost of it. We really don't know. We are anticipating that textile work is going to cause a problem, but we don't know yet. We need to really do a detailed study, do it the right thing for right price and right time. But we can provide you some estimated cost. Our idea is for this committee to provide number of the project on below the list. When the money comes available, either through federal money or as Rod mentioned, council makes our bucket bigger, we can move this project up.
Thank you. I'm Mark Cammon, District 5. This question is not my own question, but my District 5 colleague, Andre Green. Because of an injury, it's difficult for him to voice the question himself. But the question is, with all of the projects, what does ADA access look like? And is this included in all of the plans?
Of course, we have not designed anything yet. Every project we do, it has to meet the ADA requirement. We get permit like anybody else from from Austin. They review our plan, they approve it. After we do the construction, they come over there and they inspect to make sure project is done as it was approved. Every other project meets the ADA requirement after it's done.
Joseph, go ahead.
Can I open the discussion about when we're going to look at things like Rozzy said, make a priority list? How do we do that as a committee if we're sort of don't have as much information or we haven't discussed it as thoroughly? Is that in the last meeting? Do we add more time to the last meeting? It seems as if the last meeting set up the same way as these meetings, and I don't know if we've had enough time to actually go back and forth. So is there going to be, how do you do that if you can't do the motions until the last meeting and we need to discuss maybe having more time at that meeting or changing the agenda or setting ourselves up for a discussion that's more substantive?
Fair point, and Rozzy or staff may want to add something. I'll say there will be a difference. The fourth meeting will not have citizens to be heard. So we will have the full time and there's not going to be discussion about bus tours or citizens to be heard. So it will be completely like group discussion. But
I know I was told to maybe do a memo to pass out from our perspective at some point. Is that the same kind of advice that's been given to everyone else? And how do we put things to talk about without it being cold to other people, but we've discussed it behind the scenes? I don't know how that works.
That's a good question. We have some.
I was going to say, Joe, I don't think it hurts for you to send us what you believe or amendments you want this committee to consider. Like we got one from District 5 earlier. We got one about F streets as well. So, we already know there's a couple of amendments that may be coming down for our consideration. So I don't think it hurts for you to provide that in advance. And as we, and also if we as staff see something, if there's something there's a project that you would like to add that's not on our sheet, it'd give us a little bit of time to go and provide some kind of a scope and tell you a little bit about what that project could be.
I can appreciate that, but also the other members of the committee are going to be seeing it for the first time, and then they're having to look at it and think about it. We haven't seen maybe what they're thinking. So how do we prime the pump when we have that last meeting that people are not starting fresh, having a conversation we have to go back and forth about?
Like I said, if there's a project that anyone wants to add that's not on the list, I would send it to us. Let us do some research on it. We can give you, some kind of a scope, a rough scope, and we can provide that to the committee so you have that in front of you. We have a couple weeks before our next meeting. So as soon as you can get that to us, we can look at it, try to put something together so we have something to go by.
Okay. And then the final comment is that I think there's some missing answers to some questions over here and over here.
Yeah.
So we've sent our emails, you've sent them on, I know, and we don't have the information. So how can we get a handle on that? One example is the Brooks TERS. How much is in that? The lady that spoke to Brooks said she did not go to that board to present that project. She didn't tell us how much money she has access to. She did tell me afterwards that it was created in 2004. But I guess I can't get my head around if we should defund Brooks or lower it or have them do matching funds so we can fund something else if I don't have that information?
Okay. Well, I know that there was some information that was asked for after we sent out the sheet, but like John said, send us that email today.
So
Clarify.
on that subject, I just spoke with Stephanie just so that get some clarification. Questions that haven't been answered were because they were sent after the last response memo. So we're suggesting that tomorrow at 5, whenever each district sends their bus route suggestions, additional questions be made by that time so that they are added into the next response memo. And then if during the bus tour there's additional questions to be asked by next Wednesday, which is the 8th, so that staff has time to respond to all of those questions before the next meeting. Was that clear? So you have until tomorrow till 5 to ask any additional questions. Questions that haven't been answered will be responded. And if during the bus tour there's questions, by next Wednesday, so that everyone has questions answered by next meeting on the 13th.
Sorry, this is Deborah Feeks, District 3. I'm just thinking about we have Brooks people here, right? Can they answer?
She didn't know.
Oh, she didn't know.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. I wanted to make sure.
Yeah, there are folks at home who need to hear you. If I could get you to use this, I'm sorry.
Thank you. I think to Joseph's point, I think I think what he was saying was if we're leaning towards some certain amendments or just a discussion on, well, maybe we should do this, can we present it to the other committee members before the meeting, say in a group email or through the city, so that when we come to our last meeting, we will save time with presenting our ideas as opposed to, having certain people hear it for the first time and it being cold. I think that's what Joseph, and I think that's a great idea. Number 2, some of our other committees in our district received a project request form, and I don't remember us receiving it. We do have some there if we would like them. So we do have some forms here if anybody would like some. And on these, they are for any projects that we would like to add. Okay, so they're here available for anybody who wants them. And I think so is it possible for us to?
Yeah, if I could get this mic hot. Can you hear me? This is number 3.
We'll do this like Donahue. If
No, that's cool.
Donahue.
For a minute.
Testing 1, 2.
Here we go.
I do know I'm not that young. All right, I don't know if that's working. All right, so just in response to you, obviously we want you to share with us those potential requests for changes. You can't conduct business as a body over email though, but if you send those to us, we'll try to respond to them and share them with everyone. But then that doesn't allow for a sort of a chain of everyone replying, right? But everyone will know what you're thinking. Does that make sense? That's sort of the fine point there. And I guess I need to run back to you.
No, it's working now.
Okay.
So are you saying that they will be? So if we send you the email, you will be the one to distribute it?
Correct. If you ask us to respond to a potential amendment via email before tomorrow at 5, we'll include it in our response memo that everyone will get.
Okay, so we have to send it to you before tomorrow at 5.
Yeah.
So did I understand your question that you want to share with us a project that you think should be on the list, right? That's what you're advocating for?
Well, possibly not projects, but maybe amendments, any changes to what's on the table now.
Right.
So you're saying that we have to get it to you tomorrow by 5 in order for you to respond, and you'll respond to everyone.
So
on
that
all of the
everybody will
committees.
have that information. And what we do ask, like John said, if you don't like that project, don't respond. Say that's really a bad idea.
Mhm.
That we don't want, that you can't conduct through email, but it's perfectly fine for you to share with the group, or share with us so we can share with the group. This is what we would like to do. These are the changes that we would like to see. So that when we come in here in 2 weeks, we're better prepared for that meeting.
Okay, and the deadline is tomorrow, 5 PM.
Yes.
Perfect, thank you.
So if we don't have the information we need, such as Brooks?
There's someone here from Brooks that
Oh.
can answer questions if you have.
Oh, great, she's here.
Connie Gonzalez with Brooks. Yes, Mr. Bravo, I heard your questions last time around. I promised you I'd get the answers, and I came and I do have the answers. So it was created in 2004. It expires in 2039. Today we have a little less than $2 million. And so out of our own projections, which this is a city-run TERS, and so I would actually attribute and ask the city to run their own calculations because the last projections were from 2018. But if we rely on our TERS respectfully, I will be redeveloping a whole new road by the time it's even funded. But right now, today, we have a little less than $2 million.
Go ahead, Don.
All right, I've got a separate question outside of Crown Hill, but it is also because I like to root for the little guy. There was a gentleman here that demonstrated through a video the sidewalk needs of St. Mary's. I've got a twofold question for that gentleman, or perhaps anybody that can answer. What has the council district, have they provided any kind of a solution for that work, and or how much would that project cost?
As part of a proposed 2022 bond, we have 10 million for sidewalk reconstruction throughout the city, 1 million for each council district. As part of a 2022 budget, city budget, we have over $20 million for sidewalk. We know there is a big need for sidewalk, and city management and council is responding. We need to work with the council district 1 to make sure either all of those sidewalk is done or a big part of it is scheduled to be done.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Mark.
Mark Hammond, District 5. I want to know how much it would cost to expand the Calabria Road project westward from Callahan to Alamo Downs Parkway, sidewalks only. Can we get a cost estimate for that?
Yes, we can.
So Razi, following up real quick on that question, what is the approximate sidewalk mile cost to remove the old and replace with new?
It roughly costs $75 per linear foot.
Okay.
Multiply by that one, 52, 80, or whatever the mile.
Sure.
It
So
costs
if you want to approximate before the next meeting, that's an option as well. Thank you.
only sidewalk, nothing else. That's
Yes.
the only sidewalk.
So we got, just to time check everybody, we got 10 more minutes, so.
Yeah, and I guess Mike Garza, District 8, and out of respect to what Joseph brought up earlier, in terms of just trying to be prepared for the next meeting, I know there was a motion that was kind of awkwardly pushed off until the next meeting for the whole F Street discussion. And there's 10 minutes left, so I hope my fellow committee members does not drag this on. But I do want to set the goal for District 8 out there for everybody. We feel like the whole F Street discussion was a long, drawn-out process that we personally in District 8 feel is not worth the time we're investing as committee members. We feel like there's a lot more that we're here today to do. I want to make sure that everybody here understands when we do vote on that, because I imagine it's something that's going to get moved over to next meeting, that we need to respect the time and effort that city staff puts into a maintenance plan. We're talking about maybe 8 to 12, maybe 16 hours that we're investing here as committee members when they do this 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week, 52 weeks a year. I'm a member of the Texas Public Works Association myself. I'm an engineer, and I've seen the city of San Antonio get awards for their pavement preservation plan. I've seen what the staff has done. They're literally setting the bar for the whole nation. I'm really impressed with what they've done, and I trust in what they're going to do, and I hope all of you do as well. At the end of the day, whether it's your F Street, someone else's F Street, they're all important. Whether there's one car, 1,000 cars, it's important for us as citizens to maintain our infrastructure. I trust in what they're doing, and I hope you guys will as well. And I hope we don't waste a lot of time on that. That's coming from District A, and I hope you guys will support us in that for the next meeting. So, thank you.
It's working.
I guess I have a thought about our next meeting, and I know we can spend a lot of time getting into the weeds on dollars being shifted from one district to the other district, or my district to your district, or back and forth. Or we can focus on things that are acceptable to all districts, because our goal is to get the citizens to vote on a package that's acceptable and be voted on throughout the city. The public's not real happy right now. And those of you that follow bond issues have noticed that there are numerous school bonds that have failed. Some have passed, but most have failed. And so we've got to create the climate that will cause them to vote for us. And this is a history of San Antonio. San Antonio beat each other up on bond issues for years and years, until a young city councilman, a very bright one, by the name of Henry Cisneros, came along and said, you know, if we can put a package together that's acceptable to the entire city, we'll get it passed. And our bonds have passed ever since he did that, ever since he got his constituents to get that. So what I'd ask is that as we approach this next meeting, we look at the big picture of what's going to be acceptable to it's not going to be everything we want. Nobody's going to get that. We all know it. But what will be acceptable so that we can get this thing passed in May? Because you've got another bond issue in Northside that's going to be $1 million. And I think there's a couple other school districts that aren't that large, but will be on the ballot. So it's going to be a tough sell. It's not going to be a given in whatever we come up with. So thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Any other questions, thoughts?
Go ahead, Mark.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. This is Mark Hammond, District 5. I'd like to echo what Jim just said. I'm fighting for my district because I believe that my district, like many others, has been marginalized for decades. But last time there was a request for refunding based on centerline miles, and we got a chart of what the ramifications of that would be. And so what that means is that, for example, District 8 would be funded $2.4 million less or $3.7 million less, depending on how we do this. And District 8 has needs just like my district does. And if we make this proposal so offensive to the richer districts that the voters in those districts vote against the bond, then District 5 gets nothing. And District 8 voters have higher turnout than District 5 voters do. All of the districts that are well-to-do have higher voter turnout, and we need them to support this bond. And so let's be reasonable as we consider how to allocate money for F Street funding. Thank you.
It's 5 till 8. Are there any other, John, are you going to make a comment?
The city attorney just wants me to provide good clarity here on potential amendments and questions, and that we will receive them all as staff, compile, try to answer if we need to respond to them, and send them to you all. This isn't an opportunity for you to email everybody at the table and start a discussion. She just wanted there to be absolute clarity there, and I think there is. It is just bringing it to your attention again, that as you submit those things, we will hold, respond, send you out en masse in a blind copy, all of those.
And I want to follow up. I talked to John a second ago, following up on Joe and Tamara's, Joseph, sorry, and Tamara's question. I think we can extend the deadline a little bit for possible motions, because tomorrow by 5 o'clock might be a little bit tight. So bear with me with these two deadlines if you can. The beginning of our meeting, we had the discussion about each district delegation sending your bus tour priority. Still do that by tomorrow afternoon, okay? Tomorrow 5 o'clock. So if your district's like, we really want to go to X, make sure you email John and Stephanie that by tomorrow 5 o'clock. If you want to share your ideas for proposals, motions you want to bring for the next meeting so people aren't coming in cold, do that by Thursday, end of day. And we'll respond to email tomorrow. I'll send this so we can remind everybody if you forget, but does that make sense? Because I want to give people more time for the motions you want to propose. That still means you can still, of course, have a motion on December 13th. You don't have to do it like this, but to the issue of you don't want people coming in cold, do that by close of business Thursday. John, is that making sense?
That's perfect. And we'll send an email synopsis of those two deadlines, so you all
Okay.
have it in email, if that'll be helpful.
Marilyn?
I thought earlier you mentioned a deadline for something on the 8th.
Yeah.
Bus questions, if there's
Last
questions.
question. So we got
if-
three
So if
deadlines.
there's questions from the bus tour.
So on the bus tour, you may have like, oh, I've got a question right now.
Okay, those are only from the bus tour. So if we have any other questions, we need them by Thursday.
Yeah,
to you.
I mean, if there's any questions that come up while on the bus tour, it doesn't necessarily, you can still have, there'll still be another date on the 8th to submit questions and get enough response by Monday, the 13th.
And John's email is going to be super clear on the project. We might be doing kind of a crummy job of explaining it. Our goal is to try to extend the deadlines, people have more time, but I think the email will explain it better than us.
Yep.
Bob?
The question we have, do you have a PDF on the project request form that we could get? Where do we get it from? You can send it to all of us?
Yeah, I believe it was in the packet that was distributed, but we'll distribute it again. Is that?
Yeah, that
right?
would
So-
help tremendously. Thank you.
Okay, we have 2 minutes. Any last questions?
It might be unpopular, but just to clarify on the F Street funding discussion, I fully understand what people are saying, but when I read it, if I'm reading it correctly, I just pulled out a couple districts, and I think it was District 2 that had about 70 miles worth of F Street funding, and District 9 had about 6 miles. So when I look at the 100 million distributed, just say those two districts, 12 million for District 2 versus 7.5 almost for District 9, there does seem to be an equity issue there. And I understand quite well about voting, but I think we need to also be mindful that it seems that the inner city, the top 5 or 6 districts were in the 60 to 70 miles. And, when you compare that to 6 miles of F Street, that's a significant difference. And we just need to take that into account. And I did have one last question for Rozzy. Mr. Martin, on the bike infrastructure, and I think the question was asked, some of these, the initial evening that you described the projects, many of the projects in the slides already had bike infrastructure listed. Was there, what was the rationale for including bike infrastructure on some projects but not others?
I don't know where you are talking about the scope of the project.
The slides that you had on the first.
On every project, we look to make sure there is a wider sidewalk, landscaping, bike facility, and travel lane. Of course, good number of the project has an existing right-of-way, allows for us to do what we want to do. Certain area, especially on older part of town, the right-of-way is so narrow, we just cannot do everything we like to do. But on every project, we start examining sidewalk, bike lane, and roadway.
Okay. And
Christine,
also-
what, just to clarify, and it makes it a little bit muddy, I think, is some of those projects are maybe a continuation of a previous project. So we know that there was a bike lane there. We know there was a multi-purpose lane there.
So you're just continuing.
So we may have been a little bit specific, but, going forward, we do think it's probably a good idea that we just list bike infrastructure as a possibility for every project. It doesn't mean it's going to have something, but it means that, as a bike master
It will
plan
at least
gets
be
done,
considered.
we can consider it. If it can fit and everything works out, we have our community meeting and, we'll do something, whether it be a multi-purpose lane or a bike lane. So we do think that makes sense so that we have the flexibility to do, what the community wants and still provide that bike infrastructure.
Without calling out what that might look like.
Right. Give us a
Well,
little
then
bit of
I would then reiterate then, because I did ask the question the first night, that we just look at it as multimodal, bike, ped, and transit be considered. Thank you.
Thank you. And it's past 8, so to be respectful of everyone's time, we'll call this the third meeting. Expect an email from John or staff on clarifications on dates and questions. And yeah, we are still available if you have any other questions here? Thank you all. Have a good night.